Hello and welcome back. My name's Alexia, and this is your weekly ladder log, where every week I log the journey as we build the ladder of growth. So this week's been a little bit crazy because the kids are off school. So I've been trying to keep my head down and get stuff done without feeling all the guilt that they're all upstairs creating absolute chaos while I'm trying to get my head down, getting stuff done, right? So there's that. But it's been a really, really productive week. And so at the moment, we're focused really hard on building the MVP. So our MVP is we've chosen one growth journey that we're focusing on to start with, which is the therapist growth journey. So what's been really exciting this week, and like it's been really exciting, is that we were able to get one of our test reports out. So let me just backtrack a bit. So what happens with the therapist growth journey is that we have an assessment, quite an in-depth assessment that takes about 10, 15 minutes that therapists can do online. And then once they've done that, we get an alert, we take their results, and then we use those results to compile a report, a very in-depth personalized report that helps them to understand where they are on the ladder of growth on these different aspects of the growth journey. So for the therapist growth journey, we've mapped 14 different categories of growth across four different main domains of growth. And so then within the report, we map them, we say, look, this is where you are on this is if you want to grow to the next level, this is what you need to do. These are the kind of things you could be doing. So it at once takes a snapshot of where they're at and also then gives them growth moves, the things they can be doing in order to get to the next rung on the ladder. So having sort of been working really hard at identifying all of those things that to feed the model, basically, that the ladder of growth model has got all of this information behind the scenes. And so the way that we're doing that at the moment, as we're building and doing the MVP, is we're using GPTs that I'm training up with the model so that we can compile these personalized reports for people. So the report that we have at the moment is there's a huge part of the report that's standard content where we're explaining and giving them context so they can understand what they're getting. But then there's a huge part, like loads of it, that's personalized. And so we need time to compile the personalized, because we're drawing information from various sources. Now, obviously, this is at the moment it's a highly manual process and quite frustrating because at the moment we're producing the report in Canva, and let me tell you, Canva is an absolute nightmare, and I've been fighting with it like you cannot believe. I wish I could have done it in Keynote than Canva, because Canva is just horrid as a tool. I have no idea why so many people love it. I just cannot stand it. But it's in Canva because we're able to share, and it means that when we go forward, I hope that I can get somebody else to log into the Canva account, and then they can do it, and I can still see what's going on before we ship it, right? So that's why we've chosen Canva. But I probably wouldn't have made that decision. If I could do that decision again now, I'm not sure I would make it the same. But we're where we're at. I'm not about to start building that elsewhere. Because what I'm really keen to do is to move to get this automated as quickly as possible so that the AI that I'm training on the ladder of growth model can start, so we can automate as much of this as possible so that there's less copy pasting and checking, all of the stuff that's going on. So, however, all of that, I mean, it's been very interesting, and I've got a tech guy that I'm working with, and so showing him what I've been doing so that he can support me and come up with a solution to enable us to get it automated. So we're kind of like fleshing out a brief, if you like, as well around that. But yeah, so we shipped, this week, the first proper test version of our current MVP, and it was brilliant because I emailed it over or dropped it to them on Slack, and then straight away the first thing I got back was, "It's fucking brilliant. I love it." And I was like, "Oh my God, brilliant. This is so good." And then I checked in like later, and she's like, "I'm only on page 30 because it's 90 pages." And that was really interesting. The fact that as we started really putting in the data, like really sharing in the report exactly what insights the model is coming out with. And as I was going through all those insights, it was inspiring me to go, "Oh, actually, if I was getting this for me, I'd want to see this and I'd want to see this." So I started adding a little bit to it. And that's the point of testing it right now, is to see, well, are we just overwhelming people? Is it just too much? Do we need to pull back? how best do we display some of this and share it? This is part of why we're testing it and really want to be guided by the people that we're creating this for. And already we had an incredible learning just getting this test out this week that really shaped the next part of the product. So already we've been pivoting, changing things behind the scenes based on getting that one out this week. And then we had a second test coming in this week. So we were able to take that on board and already put it into version 2 that went out. So there's been a load of like behind the scenes getting stuff sorted and updating the model. And I think, I must have spent, I don't know, 3 days across this week and last week just on the GPT. I decided I just had to tear it down and start again because it wasn't listening. And I thought, the only way I'm going to know what's going on is if I just start again. So I had to rebuild it from the ground up. And it's, yeah, so yeah, 3 days it took me. But it's done now, right? It's done. So, and now I've got a much tighter process when it comes to now creating my other GPTs, because we created a GPT for this report, this growth journey, and then we're going to create another GPT for each of the other growth journeys. So now I'm much clearer on what I need to do in order to create the brief, set up the briefing process, what the information needs to look like, all of that briefing stuff, the prompts, everything. Now I've got a really good workable example working model to work with, which is going to make the rest of it much easier to replicate. And also because the therapist growth journey we've picked the therapist growth journey because it's the one that out of everyone on a growth journey, the therapists are the most invested in that journey because it's their job. They help other people to grow. So they're the ones, they've got to walk their talk, right? The entrepreneur, it's important for the entrepreneur, but they can get away with not growing. They might, you can have people making a lot of money without necessarily having the personal maturity. So there are, and similarly with other professions, even coaching, where you are helping somebody to grow. A coach, coaching isn't regulated like therapy is, and coaches don't have to do CPD in the way that therapists do. So the therapist is a lot more invested in their growth journey. So that's why we've picked them. And so we recognize by doing that the report that we're doing, the way that we're setting up this version is probably the most intense, most expansive, most thorough version of what we're doing. And everything else will be a little bit less because somebody who's on, let's say somebody does our anxiety growth journey or the ADHD one, they are not going to want to get a report more than like 90 pages. That was just going to fry their brains, right? So we need to find, we'll be distilling it and only sharing stuff that's super relevant for those people. So yeah, it's just been a phenomenal week in that respect. But also, because this ladder of growth company is, I've got other stuff that I'm doing. I've got my head trash business and I also have my birth work that I do. And so part of what I'm doing right now is also tying up loose ends and freeing up my time so that I can solely focus on this. So that means with my other companies and my other projects, like stripping those down and really getting those down to a state where it's very automated and I don't have to have a lot of personal involvement day to day. So I can step in when I need to, hire people to do the day to day, but not necessarily be personally involved. So I've also had to step into those businesses this week. And one of the things I've had to do is finish a book that I'd started earlier this year that is going out as part of my Fearless Birthing brand business, which is a sub brand of Head Trash. And so, so I think for the last 48 hours, I've been doing that. And now I've just sent the book to my editor. So, and I've got a book, the name's been identified. I've now got a book cover that looks pretty good. Obviously, AI used for a lot of that, and yeah, I use AI for a lot of the book. Except the way that I've used AI for this book is I've been narrating it, recording prompts into my phone, transcribe, like just giving it loads of transcripts of every chapter. And then I've trained it on my tone of voice, and then it's compiled all my transcripts and put it into my tone of voice. And so that's enabled me to get that done in 2 days. And that's now ready at the editors. So yeah, things are moving on. I'm clearing the decks and I'm doing ladder of growth stuff. Other great stuff this week in terms of ladder of growth is we had a great meeting with a company from Scotland because we're based in the company in Scotland. That's where my co-founder lives. And so there's lots of support available to new businesses in Scotland and female founders and things like that. So we're starting to plug into company support systems, I guess is the way to put it. So we've had a really good week considering I've been juggling, kids and watching Mission Impossible in the day, occasionally walking the dog, all that kind of stuff, because they're home. Yeah, I feel like this has just been such a milestone week. I think for me, the great bit is getting out that test, one of our first test reports out, and then the feedback. I got on a feedback call with the person, and it was just phenomenal. I mean, speaking to your customers, getting feedback, helping them to shape the product. You've got to, it's got to be done right. You can't, you've got to develop it with them. And we know that, right? We know that. A lot of people don't do that, but we know that. I know that. And it's just it's so good knowing that we're creating something that really is being that's loved already. And one thing that came through really clearly is that this person, she was like, there's nothing like this. Like, there's nothing. We don't know when we're therapists. We don't know how, if we're growing, we don't know. The only thing you have is supervision. And even then, the supervisor might not be, they might not be great. They might be, I had a supervisor that was crap for a few years. And so that, I didn't really get anything out of that process. So when you think that the people that are there to help the rest of us deal with our crap and grow and sort way through that. If they haven't sorted their stuff out and they don't know where they are, it's the blind leading the blind, right? So we need to give this to those therapists, and there's nothing else out there. I mean, it still blows my mind, and I'm probably going to rant about this quite a bit, but it blows my mind that there's the whole personal development, personal change industry, coaching, therapy, meditation, mindfulness, all affirmations. I mean, all of that, and there isn't a unified way of measuring growth. So we can't point to anything and go, oh yeah, well that works because look, it works because blah, 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 blah. We don't know, right? And that's what ladder of growth is looking to do, is to show you that this is working or no, it's not working, right? And if it's not working, you can go and do something else. So, we're all going to benefit from this, I hope, apart from those coaches and therapists that are crap. And they're like, no, 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 don't touch it. So yeah, this is why it's so exciting. And every time I put it in the hands of one of our, ideal clients, then the feedback I'm getting is just means I'm just so excited about what we're doing. So yeah, that's basically what's going on this week. And I'll be back next week for next week's ladder log, and you'll see what's been happening between now and then. See you next time. Bye.